I wasn't a bad person, but maybe I wasn't doing the best things, like, for my life and for my future.
Part 2, here we are with Jacob, and we're going to talk about the aftermath of patient maple syrup. That was his, not maple syrup, I made that part up, but maple was his potentially victim name in the hospital. So in the first part, we talked about Jacob went to a house party. He and 5 other people were stabbed. Jacob had the worst with a severe pelvic injury stab that caused him to lose a lot of blood, almost die, have exploratory surgery. Basically, they filleted him open, put him back together again after they fixed everything. And 2 other close friends had punctured lungs from stab wounds, and then a few other people had stab wounds less serious. And then the actual, what we referred to as douche canoe suspect, he actually almost cut his own thumb off in the process of hyper stabbing everyone, like in a prison yard, you'd see in a prison movie. So he also was injured as well. Everyone got patched up at the hospital, and Jacob is recovering. Dude got arrested. Everyone's healing. And so let's take it from there.
So when I finally got to leave, that's when I had me in a wheelchair. They took out the little tube out of me, the grenade. That was interesting because it felt like they just had to pull it out. There's nothing they can do. So it felt like a worm, coming out of your body, and they just pop this tube out. And I finally get to go home. The recovery at home was probably the hardest part because that was like the real recovery there. That was, I have to go back to the doctor for follow-up appointments. I have to get all of my 30 plus staples taken out. I still can't stand up straight because my skin's tight, and it's just a fresh wound, and I don't want to do anything to mess it up. I didn't want to shower because I was too afraid to get it wet. Even though they said I could, it was just like a tormenting experience, that part, because also I had a hematoma in, I don't know how else better to say this as part of your body, but my gooch. So, the spot underneath your balls. I had a hematoma right there, the size of like a softball or a grapefruit.
That's blood basically collecting because it's the lowest part of your body at that point other than your legs. And so... Well,
it was a hematoma is a deep... It's like an internal bruise. So it's not like if you get punched and you get a surface bruise in your skin. A hematoma is like internal bruising, like I'm just tore up in there, in that part of my body. So it just ballooned out like this big old massive thing down there. It's like pushed all of my stuff upward, you know what I mean? And I couldn't close my legs completely. So then that means I had to walk like legs spread out, hunched over, lifting up my head. I'm like, man, I'm going to have posture problems when this is all over. I'm like, this is brutal. And that took the longest to go away. The hematoma, that took months until like I felt normal again and down in my abdomen area. But only a few days after I got let go is when I got to get my staples out. They said I can eat. They had to make sure that I went to the bathroom because the anesthesia can make you really constipated and all that stuff. So they had to make sure that happened, or else I'd have to go back to the hospital. But I couldn't do anything, couldn't lift anything more than 5 pounds for, they said, like, I forget, it was like 6 months or something like that. That was just the recovery. And then I went through all that, just the recovery phase and healing process and just making sure my stomach and everything was good, taking care of myself. And I went back to work like 14 days later, still being careful and cautious, with my stomach and everything. At that point, it was just I was able to stand up again, upright at that point after the 2-week period. The hematoma was still there, but it was small. I can close my legs again. I can walk normal. I can eat. I can do everything normal. It's just anything that involved your core, like lifting or bending over, picking things up or anything
certain
like that.
Movements,
like quick angles, quick side. That stuff was painful, and still I had to be very careful with it for a while, probably months.
So physically, you're still recovering from basically feeling like a train wreck. Mentally, where are you at with this? Anger, helplessness, pissed off?
At first, I think I had a little PTSD. I had dreams of being cornered in a room and a guy just coming at me with a knife, situations like that. I had dreams and social anxiety. you know, like being in crowds of people again.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I still have that now. That's changed my life forever.
You feel like you got to put your back against the wall, find the exit real quick, judge everybody, you know, in that setting.
I'm just a lot more cautious now. You know, like if I'm in a massive group of people, I'm hyper aware, I guess you can say. Yeah. And I kind of would rather, like, you know, I look at the clock, I guess you can say, like, okay, when are we leaving, kind of thing. Like I don't avoid it, but if I don't have to do something that involves that many people, I won't. You know what I mean? It's just a self-preservation thing now that
man.
Especially stuff you hear about in the news. You know, you go to Walmart now and dudes are shooting up Walmart, and you're just like, man, I get anxiety when I'm around groups of people. But that's the only life-lasting effect that it's had. That, and also me wanting to protect myself. But anyways, let me get back on topic here. When my mental state at that point was fear. It was a lot of fear of, like I said, yes, anxiety of people. I had a little PTSD. I was just I didn't want to be around anybody unless it was my family or my super close friends that went through the situation with me. I just kind of turned into a hermit for a long time. Like, I just didn't want to go anywhere. Didn't want to do anything. All my friends that still wanted to go out and do stuff, I didn't want to do anything. So for a while, it was like that. Maybe for a few months, you know what I mean? But I got to a point where I just like told myself, it's like, maybe this happened because of the lifestyle I was living. Even though I wasn't a bad person or I wasn't doing bad things, I was still a young kid that just like didn't have his shit together. You know, I was wanting to go out and party every weekend. Every Saturday that hit or Friday after work, I'm calling friends, hey, where are we going this weekend? What are we doing? Like, I was 21, you know, so I took it on that aspect of like, maybe this is a sign that I just need to grow up.
I think every young person in their 20s at some point, my dad used to say, you're going to come to a fork in the road and you're going to make a decision, left or right, you know, and you're going to veer off one side and it's going to lead you down a path of potential trouble. Yep. Whether with the law, prison, death, whatever. Or you're going to take the other path of least resistance and start paving the road for less drama. Yeah. And that was your fork in the road.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. And I did some soul searching and realized that I wasn't a bad person, but maybe I wasn't doing the best things like for my life and for my future. So then I just made a change at that point. That's when I decided mentally that it's like, you know, yeah, this sucks what happened to me, but it is what it is. And at this point, I'm just going to focus on, you know, what am I going to do to feel like Jacob again? You know, I just want to feel normal again. So what am I going to do? I'm going to focus on myself. So I focused on rekindling my relationship with my girlfriend at the time. We were in that, when the stabbing happened, we were in like that on and off phase for a little bit. And I rekindled it with her, and now she's my fiance. You know, I went and bought a house. I told myself, I set yearly goals is what I did. You know, by the end of this year, I want to have this done. By the end of this year, I'm going to do this. And like, I achieved those things, and that's honestly part of what helped me get out of any sort of funk that I was in because of the situation. Because I'm like, dang, man, I'm actually doing better now than I was before this happened, and all it did was me just getting my priorities in line and really focusing on what matters. And that's how now you say that when I can talk about this stuff and I can have a smile on my face is because of that. Like, you know, it was a traumatizing situation, of course, but it's like, the way I look at it now, it's like, it's just something in my path of life that I went through. And now it's a story I have to tell people. You know, this is what, like when I have kids and they ask you know, hey, daddy, what's that scar? Now I have a good story to tell them of what not to do and how I did it and how I got out of it and how I made myself better. And I could have been that person after the situation that just really went south, was like miserable, you know, depression could have kicked in, a lot of things. And
could have hit substance abuse. You could have done a lot of different things.
And substance abuse is an issue in my family. You know what I mean? And I could have just turned south, or I could have just stayed on that path and just continued to, like, as soon as I recovered, just went out partying again and just been stupid, you know, but I didn't.
So you're on the right path physically, mentally. And now let's talk a little bit about the justice system and how this is playing out. So this is what, a few months after, when's the first point you're like, all right, here you're getting a notification, you need to go to court, you need, you know, this is what's going to happen, you have interviews, you know, that type of thing. Yeah,
so I think they call it like the deposition, right, is the first one, where you go and speak with your public defender and they get your story. That was the first one, and that was probably maybe
Now, you weren't charged with anything, nor the other 5 people. You weren't charged with any crime.
We were victims.
You were listed as a victim in the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she got us all in, and we all told our story, from our perspectives, because we're all going to have different perspectives of it. And that was probably just a few months after it all, like after I was fully healed. Trying to think, I don't remember exact dates, like when the court date and all that, but I think the actual court date was like 2 years after the stabbings when it actually finally happened. Right. So I think my first interview was like a year after it all happened. So I was fully done at that point with it, but I did bring up to them, this is what I really appreciated about the judicial system, is that for victims, is that I brought up to them like, hey, I have all of these medical bills. I have ambulance bills, all this stuff. It was
this is serious amounts of money.
It was like $80,000.
Yeah, to transport someone, cut them open, and repair them.
Yeah, and they charge you like $200 for a cotton swab.
Yeah.
So it's like I have all these medical bills, and I'm like, I don't feel that I should have to pay these. I don't feel that if I don't pay them, that it should negatively affect me. I'm like, I didn't go to this house and say, hey, I'm going to be stabbed today and want $80,000 of medical bills. Like, I need some assistance for this. I made like $9 an hour at that point in my life. I'm like, I need help with this. I can't afford this. So they got me, I think it's some sort of victim relief.
It's a victim relief fund
package or something, and then you have to apply for it. So I put all my medical bills in it, and I applied for it, and they said they'll let me know if I get approved, and I was approved like 2 days later. And I sent them all my bills. They said just send us the bills as they come in, and then they just called all the companies and negotiated the payments. So they paid less, but they negotiated them down.
You didn't have to pay anything.
I paid nothing.
All right, so win for the justice system for victims, and that's a good thing to hear.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and that's here in Pima County. That's,
the courthouse downtown. And I paid absolutely nothing. I sent them all my bills, and they sent me money back for lost wages.
Wow, okay.
So it wasn't a whole lot, but it was enough for me to catch up a little.
Judicial system doesn't play out 100% very well, but that's one good thing.
That's the one good thing. In the end, it didn't work out well, yeah.
Okay, so what happens?
So then after that, that's all taken care of. Then it's like, the talking of like, okay, well, here's going to be the court date. You're going to testify. And I was absolutely terrified to testify. Not only the fact that I'm going to see this damn guy again, but I'm going to be drilled by lawyers.
Sure.
And for one, it's just nerve-wracking.
It is, yeah.
And I was just terrified. And I was always
for 20 years. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and I was always that kid in school, and you had to stand up in front of the class and give a report. I just wouldn't do the damn report because I didn't want to do it. I don't like standing up in front of people.
Sure. Was this a trial by jury or a trial by judge?
Jury.
So you had a jury full on. This is kind of like you see in the movies where
benches with people. Yeah, a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
It was on the news. Right. Not the trial, but the stabbing was on the news.
Yeah. I mean, 6 people got stabbed at a party.
Yeah.
And a couple of them nearly lost their lives. So, it's going to be big news.
And then it's just, it was always a long wait between all this stuff, right?
Sure.
Like I said, the court date didn't happen for 2 years after the stabbing. So it's like I first talked to the lawyer a year, then a year later is not the final court date. It was a long waiting period between everything. But I only talked with them once or twice. It was the one time to get my deposition and ask for that victim relief package, and then when I got approved for it a few days later. That's the only time I ever talked to this public defender lady until she called me and said, here's the court date. Show up this time, go here, blah, blah, blah. So I felt like I wasn't getting the attention that the
communication maybe lacked a little bit as to here's the next step. This is how this could play out. Yeah. Like
I had no input on where she's going to go with the case, what you're going to ask this guy. It was just like, this is what happened to me, and that's all. Like she never talked to me about hey, so this is what we're charging him with. Like I didn't know.
Right.
This is the way we're going to go with the case. How do you feel about it? Like, I'm the victim. I felt that I should have known a little bit more. I was young then. This is kind of what I think about it now. But yeah, that's just irritated me. But then when I finally got to get to testify, like I said, I was so scared. I didn't even stay in there. I did my testimony and I left. But when I was in there, this guy had 2 paid lawyers that he paid for.
This is Douche Canoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. He hired his own attorneys, and he had 2 of them.
And
which is not cheap.
No,
not cheap at all.
And he got bailed out of jail, and he was on like a $80,000 bond or something like that.
Yeah.
So he must have had money, and I don't have that kind of money. None of us have that kind of money, and we're working with public defenders that
actually
I spoke with
prosecutors.
once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a public defender, but in that case, he chose to hire his lawyers. You had prosecutors, and you don't get to choose.
Yeah,
you can't say, no, I want to replace the state appointed attorney with, some high profile.
I wasn't going to pay for it.
The victim doesn't get to choose, but the defendant does in that case. So
yeah, that sucks.
I'm assuming you got grilled on the stand.
Not as bad as I thought.
Attorneys. Yeah,
but I could tell the questions they were asking were getting to a point of making it look like it was our fault.
Yeah. 6 guys attacked my client, therefore
self-defense.
He had to step. That would be the likely, in my experience in law enforcement, that's the likely approach for a defendant in that particular thing.
And then that's what gets me mad after the fact, is because my attorney didn't talk to us about this stuff. Hey, this is what their
defense, prep you like he's going to go this way.
This is what their defense is going to be.
Yeah, don't get worked up. It's what they do. Yeah.
Try to answer questions this way. I'm going to ask you questions to maybe combat some of his questions, whatever, right?
Right.
She didn't even do that. Even the questions. She asked me like 3 questions, which were just your typical questions about what happened. Then I get drilled by these 2 lawyers, and we're done. She never even came back and rebutted anything.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, okay. And I left.
That is crazy to think that after all of that, she didn't have any rebuttal questions. So it plays out, and what happens?
So I leave because I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to witness any more of the trial. At this point, it's 2 years later. In my mind, I was just over it, over the whole stabbing, over everything. I wanted to move on with my life.
You're setting your goals. You're trying to meet them, and this thing's weighing you down.
I bought a freaking house. Like, I got a better job. I'm moving forward, and this is behind me at this point. Like, I just want to get this damn trial out of the way. I want the guy to get arrested and go to jail, and that's it. I did my part, is what I felt. Next thing I know, like, I think it was like 4 days later or something like that, whenever their jury was done deliberating, the guy was facing, I don't know, it was like somewhere between like 50 to 60 years. One was for, I forget exact charges, but I know it was aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And like he was facing, I think, the 6 counts for everybody. And I don't even know if they had like an attempted murder charge or something in there. I don't remember exactly, but he was facing a lot of time. And I get that call, and they're like, this very nice lady, it was not the prosecutor, it was a call from her like clerk or something, and she's like, Jacob, I'm like, yeah, and she's like, I just want to let you know that he got found not guilty of everything. And she's like, if you want to talk about it, I could talk about it right now. Like, she was trying to like console me, and I was just so pissed off that I'm like, thank you for calling me and telling me this, but all I asked her was why. And like, well, he got the self-defense in his favor. Yeah,
he got somebody on that jury, or more people, several people, to believe that he defended himself, and that's all it took.
Yeah, which it was ridiculous to me, because how is one guy going to come to a party? The only guy that has a weapon. All of us that were in the hospital got all of our clothes taken off. None of us even had a knife or a weapon or anything. The guy did not have a black eye, did not have a bloody nose. His mug shot, he's perfectly fine. But there's 6 people in the hospital, and he's getting off scot-free for this, and he was the instigator of it all.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy how the judicial system can play out like that. And so you feel let down.
Yeah.
You feel disappointed. You feel like you got shoddy service from the prosecutor, who couldn't even call you herself.
I felt like if I had money, it would have gone a different way.
Yeah.
And that's what made me feel bad about it. Like, not bad, but mad about it. Like,
right.
This guy had money, so he won. And it's like, that doesn't make me feel like the justice system did right.
Yeah. A lot of talk these days about the justice system being unequitable towards race. And I think the truth is, this is my opinion, I think it's unequitable towards money. If you got money, whether you're the defendant or you're on the victim side, you're automatically in a place to win, because the pressure's on. If you were some highfalutin doctor person or CEO of Jacob.com, and you came in and told the prosecutor, nah, this isn't going to happen, you're going to do this, and I've got money and power and friends in high places, maybe the outcome would have been different. But you and I don't have that potential, financial background, so therefore we get what we get when it goes out. And unfortunately, sounds like you got the prosecutor that you weren't happy with, and he got the defense lawyers he was happy with. And,
yeah, he had 2 of them.
Yeah.
And that just they knew what they were doing. I felt like my prosecutor was more or less like, she's a state appointed one, and I felt like she just didn't really care about the case.
Going with the flow. Let's get this thing over.
She was like, this is another one slapped on my desk.
I'm not even sure these guys didn't attack this guy. Maybe, maybe that's the words coming out of my mouth, but you can kind of feel that way a little bit.
I just felt like she didn't have the care or like, if you pay a lawyer to dive into your case, they'll do everything they can to win it for you. She didn't. She just, like, to me, it felt like this is just a case that was slapped on her desk of many cases that she gets a month or a year, whatever, and she just wanted it to be over.
Yeah. Now, the good thing is you can actually put this in your rearview mirror.
Yeah. Now, at this point, I'm 32, so this happened when I was 21.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, right after. There's nothing more you can do. He's found not guilty.
That, yeah.
You're healed. You're moving on with your life. I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah. I have nothing to. I don't want nothing to do with it. I had my mom and other people say, "Why don't you go and report it to the news and try to get some sort of, pro bono, like, lawyer to come and do a civil suit against this guy?" And I'm like, why? So I could spend another 5 years of my life dealing with this?
Going through this even more?
For what at this point? Am I just going to get money out of him? Like, I don't need the money. I want the guy in jail.
Right.
And he's not in jail now, so I can't do anything. Like, now I'm just...
I like to believe karma, the good Lord, and in this case, maybe the good Lord was there that day. I like to believe that someday karma, he'll have to answer in one way or another for what he did that night. And, maybe that'll be your justice down the road.
And the crazy thing is he still lives here in town. So I can go to the mall and see him at the mall. I've actually seen him a couple times out at places and just turned around and left. I left because not like I'm going to do anything to the guy, but do you think I really want to go and see him,
I think that when there's toxic environments, the best thing to do is to dump it. Yeah. Get rid of it. Get it out of your life, whether it's, a friend, family member, a spouse, whatever the case is. If it is just toxic, you made the right call. Just go the opposite direction, put it in your rearview mirror, and move on.
And at this point, to me it's a whatever. Like I said earlier, to me now it's something I went through, a story I have, a situation that I survived, that maybe I did a little bit better than other people, but it also, I think a lot of it is my mental state. I didn't always come from the greatest childhood anyway, so I think I've always been through a lot of things, that this was just another obstacle in my life. I went through it. I kept a level head. I took it step by step, did what I had to do, and just put it behind me, and I moved forward. And I didn't let depression or any negativity hold me back. It's just something that I had to get over, and I got over, and I moved on with my life, and I'm happier now than I was before it ever happened.
So you set goals, you're meeting them. You are big in Second Amendment beliefs of being ready to defend yourself, obviously.
At this point
and who knows, even if you had a weapon, it might not have changed the circumstances of you getting stabbed because it happened so fast. But it could in the future, where you have an opportunity to see it coming. This is where I'm going with this. The Second Amendment is part of what you have as a backup plan to protect yourself.
I'll be more prepared now. I'm never going to be caught off guard like that again, is what I can say.
And take the firearm or knife out of your self-defense. You measure people by their vibes. You put yourself in a place to exit quickly. Crowds, if not necessary, don't need them. Those are all the things that keep you alive. It's survival mode. That's what we as people should be doing more often is... and there's some craziness going on out there. Yeah,
and the only lifelong effect this has on me is my anxiety. But it's gotten a lot better. It's just anxiety or a little bit of stress in certain situations. But now, me, 32-year-old Jacob, at this point, I'm pretty good with all that stuff now. I'm for the past probably, I don't know, even 8 years, since I bought my house and had my fiance and all that kind of stuff, I've been fine. I just don't, obviously I'm a different person. I was the Jacob of then, I'm the now Jacob of now, and I think I'm the Jacob of now as a better person.
We appreciate you reliving it, and it's not easy. And I know you wanted to put this in your rearview mirror, but when I first heard the story, I was just astounded at how such a happy-go-lucky guy can nearly die and not be angry. Because when I heard about the judicial side of it, another reason to be angry, you just, clearly you're one of those people that legitimately live what you say, which is put it behind me, move on. I'm only living for today and tomorrow. I'm not living for what happened yesterday.
Yeah. What am I going to do? Be miserable the rest of my life because of this? No.
Right.
I still got a life to live.
Right.
And
so
the minutes and time in my day matter to me.
Love it. Thank you, Jacob. And for those of you out there, think about defending yourself however that you see fit. Think about places you should and shouldn't be, maybe, and where it could go, and make good calls on who you surround yourself with. And give a little shout out to the trauma people. They did a good job. That's not easy, to cut a human being open and repair the damage and put them back together.
The surgeons at UMC, now Banner, they're amazing.
Yeah, I've seen them work at trauma care, and if I ever got injured severely, I would want to be there, worked on by those folks. They're amazing. So with that said, thank you for joining the show today, Jacob.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Have a good one.
Peace out. Well, Filthy Pirates, we hope you all enjoyed the show today. Hit that like and subscribe button to follow us on our YouTube channel. Check us out at www.filthypirate.coffee, or come see us to sample our amazing coffee at our store. Stay caffeinated and give no quarters to your morning.